David, I started my senior footy career anyway, after school at Geelong. I was recruited there in '61 after school and played there for 4 years. Played a minimum number of senior games and many more reserve grade games. And I suppose the highlight of my time at Geelong as a player was that, apart from the fact that Kevin Kirby was our head trainer in the reserves, we played in 2 reserve grade premierships and won them. That was '63-64. And I suppose I can say that, well, I do therefore know what a feeling it is to play in front of 100,000 people at grand final day at the MCG, albeit in the reserves in the early games, because in those days, as you may know, we had under-19s reserves and seniors for the whole day, and in '63 it was that the Cats had all of 3 in the grand final, so there was no one left in Geelong. They were all up there at the MCG. It was a great day for a burglar if he wanted to do some work in Geelong. But we didn't win the reserves. We won the under-19s, we won the reserves and seniors. So I played there, and then I came over to here at the Roosters in '66. Played 3 years here as a playing coach, and we got a premiership in '68, and that was the highlight of my football career. It was a wonderful time. It was a wonderful club. It was a community club, and I have the vibes that it still is. But in those days we had a committee of 20, they were all Geelong West people, they were dedicated to the cause, and it was nothing for us here on a home game on a Sunday, which of course the VFA had Sunday games on their own, televised Sunday games. And so we'd get 5,000 here, and later on when Billy Goggin was in charge of the First Division team, I've seen 10,000 here at the Geelong West ground on a Sunday afternoon. It was super football, and there was great memories of VFA footy, David. I suppose I'd be remembered as a slightly built 6'2" centre-half forward. As for whether I was an in-and-out player or an up-and-down player, I don't understand that, David. I played centre-half forward all my life, and it was the position for me, or half-forward flank, and enjoyed every game I played at both Geelong and Geelong West. We were the underdogs, David, in '68. We'd played Williamstown 3 times, beaten every time, and come the grand final, and there were some punters around in those days too in the VFA, and we were long shot to win it. In fact, Max Papley, who headed up Williamstown, it was a very professional operation. We'd done well recruiting locally, however. We had Doug Stacey was the vice captain, and he was a champion player. He's the only player that I say, in all my years of watching footy and being involved, he's the only bloke I ever say that could have and should have played league footy, Doug Stacey. But anyway, he was our back pocket, reliable vice captain. We got Darky Harris that year. He was a dominant centre player. And strong players, Ken Snell, Peter Keys, look, it could go on and on. Just our team. Ron Tenabell was the other guy we recruited, thanks to the assistance given by Albert Batty. He made it interesting for Ron to come and play with us financially, and so we just built up for the day, and it was one of those things. It was a tremendous game. It was televised, only game in Victoria to be televised on that day, so it would have had an audience of, I don't know, 1 million people probably. Played at Paran. There was only a couple of points separated us, and yeah, it's a vivid memory and a fine memory. I retired after that grand final, which seems strange to a lot of people, but in those days, A, there was no money in football, and B, I had strong family and business involvement. The father had just died a couple of years ago. I was in a family business, and there were a lot of pressures involved there, and I'd let a few of the committee people know that was going to be the end for me. And in those days also, you couldn't ever go. Once you played in the VFA after playing VFL, as it was in those days, you couldn't go anywhere because they bickered. The two competitions weren't at, they were at loggerheads. Anyway, I've finished. Then I got into, because I was a local man, I got involved in broadcasting with 3GL. I did it almost continuously for 25 years, doing the Geelong games, and also broadcast in the 70s the VFA on Sunday afternoon with Harry Stapleton. So I've sort of, and I was interspersed with a year as chairman of selectors at Geelong also. So there's been an involvement right through my life with footy, albeit a little bit different, but very interesting. And after that, subsequent to that, I've been involved for 6 years as president of the past players at Geelong also. So, right through my life, as a secondary issue, my business, family and other social areas were predominated, I suppose, but I always had the love of footy and the interest in it, and Geelong's been a great place to be involved, and we've seen some excellent footy both here at the Roosters and also at Geelong. Of course, after that 40-year drought in the early part of the 21st century, Geelong have excelled. The VFA was an interesting and a great competition through the 60s when I was involved, in the 70s later on when I was broadcasting. For the reason, A, that it was a community club, B, it wasn't professional, so it was a level playing field from all the various community areas. You've got Box Hill, Port Melbourne, Geelong West, Coburg, Preston, all these, and they were backed by Williamstown, they were all backed by their community. But more importantly, due to for a political reason, VFA had Sunday footy alone, and that was an enormous advantage for them. It projected them to all of Victorian football followers, and it was a wonderful thing. So there really wasn't that great deal of difference between the VFA and the VFL. Certainly, if I'm speaking from Geelong West perspective, our allied club was obviously Geelong and the local league. That's where we recruited from, and likewise the Melbourne clubs did the same. But they were the second tier players that played in the VFA, not quite good enough maybe to play the 100, 200 games, or they've done that and then they come back here afterwards and finish their career. So it was an exciting competition. Now, it has a reputation of being of having a lot of thuggery in it. Thuggery is probably a bit harsh, but it was physical. And I think it was a bit more physical than the league in some respects. You had a few old timers that would come back to this competition and they'd start a bit of biffo. It was a part of it, and when you think of it now, one umpire, how could he control it? We all had our share of it, some more than others, being on the receiving end and probably dishing a bit out maybe, but. One umpire was a busy boy doing what he did, and even though it was 16 men aside, that's the other point to mention, the 16 men aside, no wings. And I personally liked that because it gave more room for the participants to get involved in. But, just to generalise, it was a super competition in the 60s, 70s and 80s, and I reckon it's a sad thing it's folded because I'm not even interested in the VFL reserve gate competition, whatever it's called, the Scorpions and the Bush Rangers and whoever they are. It's feeding ground, yes, but it doesn't have the community spirit and the feeling as did VFA. So that's my theories on VFA footy.
You've given your heart to get here and your soul to get it right. You can take 'em boots and all, but it's sure gonna take a fight. When you spend all week getting to your peak, you're gonna have your say. You bet.